Hello, everyone. This is Dr. B with Gut Busting Entertainment, and I'm coming to you with part 3 on the subject of sex. We ended with part 2 asking the question, what does sex mean to you? We weren't talking about exactly the definition, but the meaning of sex. What does sex mean to you as an individual? And I was giving you some examples of what it meant to you. Some of us mean that sex means to us that I have a notch on my belt. I accomplished something. I was able to take someone down. I was able to have that person. And it also has been a resource that some of us have used to provide to get what we need. And so that seems to be the only thing that works on our behalf. It is a means of getting what I want, whether it is financially, even emotionally. I don't want to feel alone. I don't want to feel abandoned. I don't want to feel like I'm not worth anything. And so I will go out and have sex with anyone at any time, anywhere. It has been used as a cruel trick, very cruel trick, to play with someone else's feelings, their emotions. We have given the wrong impression by having sex with individuals. We have made people believe that we care for them and that we want them. And many times that is the very opposite. We just wanted to use them. We wanted to have a release, and no one else was willing to allow this particular animal behavior to be exercised on them. They felt better of themselves. And so we went to an individual that was vulnerable. We went to an individual that was naive. We went to an individual that was not aware of our intentions. And we've used sex. Again, I must ask the question, what does it mean to you? And then to some of us, it means nothing. We have used it in such a way for so long that the purpose of sex is no longer there. We have become numb to its purpose. We have become unaffected by its purpose. And then for some of us, we have tried to ignore what it does. It brings a closeness. It brings a dependency on and in someone because we have been intimate with them. It may even bring a spirit or a thought of entitlement. Because you had sex with me, there are certain entitlements that I feel I should have. And privileges. And all of these particular things that draws us to one another is the reason why God put it in marriage. There is a place for it to be. There is a place for it to become all that it was intended to be. And that was in the institution that God himself set up, marriage. And we find the effectiveness, the pleasure, the meaning, and the excitement of it. And we exercise physically the various levels that our bodies can actually demonstrate. And our imagination can take us, and the resources that we may even use to excite us, the products that we have to assist us, all of these things. But when it is taken out of context, there is the other side of it that saddens the hearts of many, that leaves behind, as I have said in the last video, devastation. You leave behind real people. You make real people. And because it was not used for something that was supposed to have been used for the sacredness of a institution that has been set up, and where we have committed to ourselves to go through difficult times, and that act brings us back together when life can tear you apart, when life can bring such a difficult challenge, trying and working together. And this act in itself brings you and I back together. We find ourselves drifting apart. But when I come back together with you in this act, I become vulnerable. You become vulnerable. We become vulnerable to each other. And even though I may not want sometimes to be intimate with you, I know that if I am, there is a certain softness, a certain vulnerability that this act will cause me to have. And I must stay away from you, because if I don't, I will fall victim of its purpose. And that is to bring us together. And so God says, since I designed sex, I made sex, I am responsible for its purpose. I am responsible for the thought of what it is and what it does. He set up rules. And I'm reading out of the book of Corinthians, and this is for those of us who call ourselves Christians. And Paul wrote this book in Corinthians, telling us that the Corinthian church how to conduct themselves after the Spirit of God has entered them. They were a culture that needed to be taught, like many of us. When Christ comes into our lives, we have to unlearn what we learned to learn something new. And he was dealing with a culture that immorality was a great part of the culture. And he had to help them to understand, when you become a Christian, when you have allowed God to enter into your life, there are certain things that you cannot continue to do. And so he begins to explain to them the purpose of their body. And I'm reading from the 6th chapter of 1 Corinthians. Corinthians is found in the New Testament. And I have the Schofield division. He said, foods for the stomach, and I'm reading 6 and 13. I'll start there. Foods for the stomach, and the stomach for foods, but God will destroy both it and them. Now the body is not for sexual immorality, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. It's not one-sided. He said, your body is for me, and I am supposed to fulfill what it is that your body that I made is for. And God both raised up the Lord and will also raise us up by his power. Do you not know that your bodies are members of Christ? You didn't know that? Those of you that believe in him, he said, the purpose of your body is that you're members of Christ. Shall I then take the members of Christ and make them members of a harlot? Certainly not. Or do you not know that he who is joined to a harlot is one body? Anyone that you join to in that sexual act, you all become one body. So whatever it is that they have been doing, whoever they've been with, when you come in contact with them, you all are becoming one body. That's why he wanted it to be in marriage. So for the men who want to call you a name after they've had you, they don't understand the significance of what they're doing, because you became one body with the one that you call whatever you want to call them, a whore, a prostitute, a harlot, or whatever. So Christ is letting us know it's not one-sided. You yourself have become that as well. He says, shall become one body. Let's go back to 16. Or do you not know that he who is joined to a harlot is one body with her? For the two, he says, shall become one flesh. But he who is joined to the Lord is one spirit with him. Flee sexual immorality. Every sin that a man does is outside the body, but he who commits sexual immorality sins against his own body. Or do you not know? And this is where Paul was helping them to understand. Do you not know that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit, who is in you? First of all, he has to be in you, whom you have from God. And you are not your own. He said, you're not your own. I know you think you are. But once he comes into your body, once he comes into your life, you are not your own. For you have been bought at a price. Therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. So I'm here to tell you today that you have been fearfully and wonderfully made. And your body is a temple of God, if indeed God has come into your life. And he set up marriage for your body to enjoy itself with someone else who will be your mate, who you have chosen to be with. Because he again has told us the bed is undefiled. He wants each and every one of us to enjoy what he has created, to enjoy his imagination. And no one but a God that we serve, that the only true God, could have come up with such an idea for marriage, sex, for mankind, intimacy. So this is part 3. What sex means to you and what God intended for it to be. Enjoy the structure that God has placed it in. Understand the purpose. It's not only for making babies. It's not only to have someone with you. It's so much more. This is Dr. B with gut-busting entertainment. I hope you enjoyed this part of the video and look forward to part 4 on the subject of sex. Thank you for tuning in. See you next week. Bye.